Thanks for tuning in to the Diaphragm Dynasty. I'm back with another R&B topic, of course. And over the last couple of days, I've been thinking about Teddy Pendergrass and where do we rank him in all-time greats? Because Teddy Pendergrass is one of those artists that are nostalgic, of course, but he's one of those artists, especially in R&B, that, or in the pop world, I should say, that people don't know his name, but they definitely know his music because his music is timeless and his music has aged better than a lot of artists that we have out there. Because I love Luther Vandross, but a lot of his music seems outdated, hasn't aged well. I love Marvin Gaye. Some of his music has done the same thing. Now, Teddy Pendergrass being in the same era, a lot of his music has not aged, and it seemed like you could have made it today, just because of the sounds, the production, the vocal range that he had, just timeless stuff. So you might not know Teddy Pendergrass, but you definitely know his music. And he was the first black male artist to record 5 consecutive platinum albums, so that shows you his relevancy in just music, not just in R&B. But where do we rank him? Because he was in the golden era of R&B. He had to compete with some of the best. He had to compete with Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Al Green, Barry White, Luther Vandross, and not to even mention Curtis Mayfield, who has one of the best soundtracks in music ever, with the Superfly soundtrack, one of the best soundtracks ever. So, and which I have to do a topic on that eventually because that was a great soundtrack that a lot of people, rappers, have sampled. A lot of artists have sampled. One of the greatest musical performances of all time. So, but Teddy Pendergrass had to deal with those artists, and it was very competitive back then. It was like the rap game is now, pretty much, or the late '90s, early 2000s rap competition. He had to deal with all of that, and I'm not counting in this ranking non-traditional R&B artists like Prince and like Michael Jackson, those artists who were pop stars and then did rock and roll music and had different influences. I'm just talking about the traditional R&B artists like I named before, like the Luther Vandrosses, like the Stevie Wonders, uh, Al Greens, guys like that who are pretty much traditional R&B. And for the most part, I can't put anyone above Marvin Gaye in traditional R&B sense in that era because he was just different. The performances that he had, the subject matter that he had. He was talking about stuff that they talk about now that wasn't really comfortable talking about back then, talking about sexual encounters and things like that. Marvin Gaye had that different type of ability. That performance of him doing the national anthem at the NBA All-Star game and the way people in the crowd were looking and feeling, it was definitely different. Haven't even seen that since. But he had that voice, that special voice like that. So I can't put anybody above him, especially with Marvin's talent, his vocal range, his influence. Same thing with Stevie Wonder. His catalog is just too lengthy of a catalog. His his musical talent of playing so many instruments, playing a piano, playing a harmonica, playing so many different instruments, and then having so many different sounds, having such classic records and classic albums. He's probably has the most classic albums ever, and just his songwriting ability as well. So Stevie is just different. I can't put anybody above him, yet alone Teddy Pendergrass in that era. Luther Vandross the same, a legend. His hits, his longevity. I do think a lot of or some of his tracks haven't aged well, especially according to Teddy Pendergrass. But I think Luther's influence is just too much, and what he was able to do in his career, I can't put Teddy Pendergrass against over Luther either. So I do have in his era, I have Teddy Pendergrass fourth, only behind Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, and of course Luther Vandross. Those guys are just too legendary. But Teddy Pendergrass is legendary in his own right, and I think he's one of the most underrated R&B artists of all time, not just of his era. Just because I think he was lost in the shuffle of the other greats in the era, of the Stevie Wonders and Luther Vandrosses and Marvin Gaye's. Now, Teddy Pendergrass, if you're talking about the hits that he can go if it was a versus, if he was still alive, of course, can go to toe with anybody. You know, he has Love TKO, Turn Off the Lights, You're My Latest Greatest, Close the Door, Come On Go With Me. And this is just a short list of songs that he has in his discography because he has one of the best discographies in R not just R&B history, but music history. All of those songs, if they came out today, shoot, he would probably be worth $500 million. But back in the 70s, that was only worth so much. But of course, he had money in the 70s. He used to, push the Bentley around and he did pretty well for himself. But today's equivalency, he would have been out of this world with that money. But thinking about the Michael Jackson biopic, I think he's one of those guys that's interesting enough to have a biopic, because especially what happened at the end of his life when he was confined to a wheelchair, an accident that he was in, and things like that. But his life story, I think, needs a biopic. And I know before they were talking about Tyrese Gibson playing him in a biopic, but that seemed like it since has went away or it's just been on hold because I think Lee Daniels was responsible for putting that movie together, but I think it's been on hold. But that'll have been a huge biopic, especially in the biopic era, I should say. I don't know what to say biopic. Um, but if Tyrese doesn't play Teddy Pendergrass, a guy like Noel could be good for him. He kind of looks like him. He played in the first Purge movie, and he played in Issa Rae's Insecure movies, well, TV shows. So I think he'll be a good suitor as well. But as far as Tender Pendergrass goes, I think he was a top 5 artist of his era. I have him listed at number 4 because of his influence, his hit making, his vocal skill set, and all of those great things. So tell me, where you have Teddy Pendergrass ranked in your all time rankings or of his era? And until next time, I see you next time.